Why Orlando? Well, Vanessa, it was a choice between Orlando or Washington, and Orlando came up top. I think the easiest way to answer that is because of Disney World and my love and passion for coming back to Disney World. But deep down inside, I think the importance around the families bit is a real thing for us, and to give the competitors a chance to bring their families and their children over from all the other 14 different nations to Disney World to enjoy the delights of Disney and everything it has to offer. And also, the weather's absolutely fantastic, and you know what? America was where this idea was born. It was where I stole it from, so it seemed right and appropriate to bring it back to you guys. Yes, I think it was in 2012. I probably got that wrong, but it was sometime then that I came over to Colorado Springs to watch the Warrior Games, which I hope most of you guys have heard about, if not seen, hopefully. And during a trip there, I realized that I saw sports take a hugely important part in the rehabilitation and the recovery process of all these individuals. For those who don't know, the Warrior Games is a multi-sport discipline for, I think, 300 of the US service men and women, of which 30 people were invited from the UK. And we came over, took part in it, and there was probably maybe 10 or 15 cameras, maybe 150 spectators, and I saw this amazing event unfold in front of me and saw the impact that it had on all of these individuals in different stages of their recovery process from the injuries that they'd sustained from Iraq or Afghanistan or back home, and decided that this needed to go to an international market, this needed to go to an international audience. These guys needed to be celebrated more, and it was such a wonderful example of determination, grit, everything that you could possibly wish for the fighting human spirit. And this needed to be international, and people needed to be able to see it and enjoy this sporting spectacle that was unfolding in front of my eyes. Yes, the passions for the Invictus Games, or the passions of my connection, I suppose, towards all the veterans and the military family, stems back from 2007, 2008, when I got pulled out of Afghanistan after just 10 weeks. I had to leave my soldiers behind in the desert, not knowing what was going to happen to them. As anybody, especially as an army officer, it was probably one of the worst experiences of my life, being plucked out of there. And as I said, not knowing whether the next time I was going to see them, they were going to be in a body bag, or whether they were going to be, in hospital back here with their families standing over them. So when I was extracted, I ended up on a plane back from Kandahar airport, and there were 3 or 4 British soldiers in the room in front of me on the plane. And I pulled back the curtain and asked the doctors if I could speak to them. They said, well, unfortunately, they're all in induced comas, but do come and have a look. And one of them was a Marine, Ben McBean, who, a young lad, I think he was about 22 at the time, perhaps, lost an arm and lost a leg, and was wrapped up in all of this plastic with tubes in his mouth, tubes coming out of all of his body. The guy next to him had a little capsule with shrapnel in it that had been removed from his brain, and he was in an induced coma, clutching this in his hand. And I'd heard about all of these injuries that were happening and all of the bodies and the parts of bodies that were being flown back to the UK, which was a horrible thing to hear about when you're there on the ground. But then to see it was this unbelievably powerful moment that sort of hit me smack in the face. And I realized, you know what, something needs to be done about this, because these kids are going back to their parents, back to their families in pieces. And people in the UK don't know what's happening. There's a lot of a propaganda piece, which is understandable. Not everybody wants to hear about all the injuries, but the facts were there. They were right in front of me. These kids were being blown up serving their country, and after 10 years service of my own, it only seemed right that I was perfectly positioned to be able to shine a massive spotlight on these individuals all across the world.